Good morning. I hope that you're all enjoying the delicious breakfast. One of the things I love about WCET is we feed you well. My name is Dr. Luke Dowden. I'm from the University of Louisiana at Lafayette, and I'm your incoming chair of the WCET Steering Committee. And I get to accomplish one of my life goals. I get to be a hype man, so my children will be so pleased. We've got a great opportunity for you to hear from students this morning. And so without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Phil Hill from MindWires Consulting. If you're not following Phil on Twitter, he's a reason to get on Twitter. And Patricia James from California Community Colleges is a real thoughtful person, someone I was on a panel with last year. And I'm so glad that they're going to be moderating this morning's session. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to Phil and Patricia.
So thank you, and definitely looking forward to this session. Actually, this is one of the highlights I've been looking forward to coming here. There are plenty of highlights here, but one of the biggest issues within ed tech is we don't always do a very good job of actually listening to students. Quite often we talk about students, we characterize students, we hear what others have to say, but we don't do a good enough job actually listening to them. And we definitely have noticed this in conferences, but it goes beyond that. There's a conference that both Patricia and I were helping out with 20 Million Minds Foundation back in January of this year, and we ended up having a student panel where all of the presentations even included students reacting to them. Students got to tell their stories. And it was just a very rewarding experience to hear what they have to say. And it actually helped change the conversation within the conference. It seemed like it got people thinking from a student's point of view as they would go on into the additional sessions. So I think that WCET is doing a wonderful job of bringing these students in for that exact same reason. And I think it's quite natural for WCET to do this. What I've always told people that I enjoy about this conference, or one of the things that I like the most, is that we bring in people from various groups, schools, both faculty and administrators, staff, but we also bring in vendors, we bring in consultants, we bring in students, and everybody has a conversation together here at WCET. And from my personal opinion, that's one of the best aspects of coming to WCET. It changes what you talk about. You actually have different perspectives talking together. So I think it's quite natural that WCET is leading this, and certainly appreciate the time that the students are providing to help out with this. One other thing I would mention is within eLiterate blog that I co-publish with Michael Feldstein, we're also doing an eLiterate TV video series where we're going out and we're actually doing case studies at schools. The current one that we're developing is around personalized and adaptive learning. And we've already done filming at 2 different schools. I guess I'm showing my age by calling it filming, by the way. But we're, in each case, we're making it a point to actually have student panels. And one was interesting up at Middlebury College, where we did a panel of both students and faculty talking together. And it was fascinating to actually watch the reaction of faculty as they had these conversations with students. They were having aha moments. Wow, I've never thought about things that way. And it helped them out as well. So just overall, I appreciate the setup for this panel. I appreciate the students' time, but I also encourage people, I think we could do this a lot more, not just at conferences, but at any level of planning on campuses. We need to hear the student stories. Now we have 3 students with us right now that we're going to do an introduction of, and we have a 4th who is on her way. Obviously, 4 students can't be representative of an entire student body, even at a single campus. So we're not looking for a representative, here's the official answer, but I think we're looking more for stories. What are you doing, and how do you perceive the world? And hopefully it'll lead to some insight. At the end, we're also going to open it up for questions, both from everybody in the room as well as back channel conversations. So we'll be trying to keep this as interactive as possible. But with that in mind, I'd like to have Patricia say a few words as well.
Good morning. How many of you have been online students? And leave your hand up if it's undergraduate. Okay, look around. Put your hand back up, online students. Look around. Undergraduate? I'm just making a point. And I just want to say that there's a big difference between the undergraduate world of online education and the graduate world, and know that. And what we're going to be talking about may or may not seem like it pertains to you, depending on what you're teaching, but I'm hoping that you'll get something out of every word. I always do when I talk to students. And we have done some interesting things in California, and particularly in the colleges that I've been at. One was that I was driving to work one day, and we were going to have 250 people at our online teaching academy at our college, and I was supposed to do the keynote. And most of you know me, I have no trouble talking. But it dawned on me that we needed a student. And so I called a student that I knew, my daughter, and she took her bachelor's and her associate's degree online. And I said to her, can you be on Skype in about 15 minutes to be in front of about 250 teachers? And she said, sure. Am I going to be on video? And I said, yeah. And she said, oh, I got to go take a shower. And when she came back, we did put her on Skype, and the interaction that happened between the group and the students taught us so much. So I think you're in for a treat here. It's different to be taking an evaluation, a student evaluation, and reading the results of an evaluation, A, B, C, D, and so forth, than having a conversation with them about their experience. I think we take ourselves out of the emotional and the affective domain when we're looking at a Scantron sheet of their answers for evaluation. So we're hoping that this will encourage you to go back to your campus and start to bring the students in a way that makes sense. And if they can't come into your school or your classroom or wherever you want them, Skype them in or use some tool to bring them in and get their opinions about things. We often feel isolated as teachers when we're in online classes, and the students feel isolated as students. So when they're filling out their evaluation, they're doing it in private alone, and there's a whole different thing that goes on than when they're talking to you about the class. A friend of mine back in California asks her students to provide advice at the end of each course for the students who are going to take the next class. And then she posts that at the beginning of the next class. We did videos of our students for a promotional we were doing, and we asked them to say what they thought they would tell other students about their experience, and we learned some really great things I hadn't thought of from them. One of them said, you know, when you are a face-to-face student, you set aside 3 hours a week or 4 hours a week for your class because you know you're going to be there. But when you're an online student, you don't do that. So she was telling other students, set aside the time just as though you were in class. And I hadn't thought of that. Teaching online for 9 years, and I hadn't thought of that. You know, I was like, wow, okay. So you pick up things that you haven't thought of. There's a thing called the curse of knowledge, which some of you may know about. You can't unknow what you know. So if you're going to be teaching online and there's the wall there, and you think that you're getting the information over to them, but you know all about what you're teaching, and you can't unknow that, so you don't know what pieces you're missing. So it's not just about your discipline, it's about how you teach, it's about how you think about your students. I'm really excited about talking to these students.
All right, well, thank you. So now we're going to have a casual conversation with a couple hundred of your best friends who just happen to be eating and drinking coffee while you're sitting up here with lights on you. But other than that, it's just a casual conversation. So what I'd like to start out with is get an understanding of, can you tell me like your life story? Maybe not from the beginning, but what are you trying to do in college? You know, what program are you in and why? And could you describe sort of your personal situation? Start with Stacy. Yeah.
Hi, okay. So I am weeks away from finishing my bachelor's through the OSU eCampus. I'm pretty excited. Nothing like the 25-year college plan, but I'm getting there. Let's see, I went back to school about 2.5 years ago after raising my kids. They were in elementary school, and I had the time again. and I was trying to balance taking care of my children and working as a volunteer and a part-time job and being a caregiver for a sick family member. And I was originally registered actually at a traditional college and had classes planned, but was really nervous about how I was going to pull off the hour commute every day to and from, and how I was going to squeeze all of my classes into this 5-hour window when my kids were at school. And it was very stressful. I happened to come across the eCampus, and it just clicked. It made it work for me. I've been able to take all of my courses. My degree is going to be in liberal studies with a pre-education specialization, so I'm going to hopefully be a teacher in a little while. I can take my classes at 5 in the morning while my kids are sleeping, or I can take tests at 10 o'clock at night. If I didn't have that flexibility, I don't think I'd be weeks away from getting my degree. So.
A couple questions I have for you. So how long was you said you were away from school for a while. How long were you away from school?
Maybe 15 years. I started out right after high school, did several years, and then between tuition issues and then having children, it just kind of fell.
Yeah. And are you you're in a fully online program right now?
I am, yeah. Over 2 years, there's only one course that I've had to take at a local community college because it wasn't offered through the eCampus.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. So now I'd like to, oops, had it right there before. Jeff.
Ooh, my picture goes up?
Yes.
Oh, I can't see it. Cool. Sorry about my big giant head up there.
Yeah. You have a very nice smile, though.
Thanks. So my name's Jeff, and it turns out that I'm not happy unless I'm learning something. So I've been going to school for a very long time. When I transferred into Portland State, I think I offered them around 215 credits. And just, 180 to graduate, so, I just need my upper division and I'm good to go. So I started out for many years doing a computer science degree program. I've been going through various colleges, various everywheres, and I realized I was going to take a shift. So I don't want to say I threw away all my programming training and all that amazing math that I had to learn. Oh, by the way, I wanted to ask you a question. You said you can't unlearn something? I can't remember my statistics class. Okay. So I got to a point where I have no kids. I'm 46 this year. But I realized if I wanted to finish off my degree, which I promised myself as a kid that I was going to get, that 2 classes a week is going to equate to most of my week shot. I mean, I'm a working adult. I work at a software company here downtown. And I just didn't want to spend the time. So I found the online degree program, and I found this business degree. I'm in the business management and leadership at PSU. And I'm just starting their online program. So I am quite literally in the first quarter of this program. So anything you ask about me is going to be from very, very fresh perspective. So that's my story.
And so what is you mentioned the goal about you always like to be learning, but do you have any other degree goals and what you're going to do with it? So why are you taking this beyond just lifelong learning?
That's a great question, and I'll let you know in 3 years.
Okay.
Just to give you a quick example, I decided to take last summer off of school. I didn't take any classes, and somehow I decided I needed to learn basic electronics. So I spent the entire summer looking up how to do basic electronics, and I was buying electronics kits and learning how to solder. So that's when I really realized I have to be learning something.
Got you. Okay. Well, thank you. And Pat.
Sorry. So I was a victim of the downturn economy in 2009. I still am a heavy equipment mechanic, and I got laid off without a degree. So when I moved to Oregon to apply for heavy equipment spots, they were all looking for degrees. And I was really scared of college because I didn't apply myself in high school at all. So I went to PCC and did kind of a work experience program through the dealership I work now. And I realized college wasn't scary and that I could do a lot more with my life. So I planned to transfer to Portland State when I got done with that, and I got done with that degree and talked to Portland State, and nothing in that degree transferred to Portland State. So I was a little bit shot down, and I just started taking online classes at PCC to transfer to Portland State. So I went back and got another associate's degree, and when I went to looking to transfer to Portland State again, I was trying to figure out how I was going to work full-time, help my wife raise my 5 awesome kids, and get my degree. And I stumbled upon the Business Management and Leadership online program and applied for that and got in. So yeah, that's where I'm at with that. And on top of that, I needed electives and found another really great online program that I completed this summer in social entrepreneurship. So.
Okay, good. Well, thank you very much. And then also we have Joanna.
My name's Joanna, and I am currently a Portland State University student. I'm about to finish my bachelor's in criminal justice and criminology this month, or this coming month, I'm sorry, the 13th of December. And I've been an online student for 4 years. However, my associate's degree was at Kaplan University in the same field. The online program has really allowed me the flexibility as a single mom not to have to worry about childcare and commuting and when I'm going to get my work done around my work schedule or whatnot. In fact, this term I'm taking one course on campus, which I've never done before in the last 4 years, and I'm just really becoming very grateful for the online programs because I am really starting to get a taste of what it's like to actually commute to school with a small child and have to worry about daycare and if the child's sick and everything else. So that's kind of been my story with my online education. Again, I'm almost done, and thereafter I plan to pursue some type of probably law enforcement field, although I don't have my heart set necessarily on one specific career right now. And yeah, that's kind of it.
And sorry, don't want to put you on the spot, but
No.
actually it relates to, I think, what you're saying. You were actually the reason coming here just a little bit late. It's the same issue you have with school. Is that correct?
Exactly. Yeah, I'm actually commuting all the way from Troutdale. I don't know if everybody's familiar with the Multnomah County area, but it takes a good over hour and a half to commute between driving and taking the max halfway here. So, and that's just for one class. And I'm at a point after taking this class where I have told myself I probably could not have done it without some kind of online courses being available. So definitely very grateful for these programs.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay. And actually, Patricia, even though that you've done sort of all kinds of roles here, including being a student yourself, so could you sort of describe your story as a student?
Yeah, when I was in high school and all my friends were looking to go to college and they were all looking for colleges, you know, when you're a junior and you're trying to figure out where you're going to go, I was very excited and I came home to my mom and I said, where am I going to go to college? I'm really excited and all my friends are looking and we've had this counselor come in and talk to us and what am I going to do? And she said, oh, honey, you're not college material. And in our family, no one had gone to college, so for her, she was trying to protect me. You know, she thought it would be really a bad thing for me to do, that I wouldn't be successful and it would be very painful. And so I got married instead. And Pat, I have 5 kids too. And so I had kids, and I had a mother-in-law who always wanted to go to college and couldn't. And she said, you need to go to school. You're a smart girl and you should be in school, and I'll watch the kids and you go to school. There were no online classes then. And so I started at a community college in California and they saved my life. and they changed who I was and what I thought about myself. So I managed at that point to really change who I was and have some confidence in who I was and that I could really learn. And the teachers told me that. They said, you know, Pat, you can do anything you want. I didn't know that. No one had ever said that to me. So I got that encouragement from my teachers. And I moved up in jobs. You know, I just kind of found myself in, oh, yeah, I could do that. Or, oh, you want me to do that? Sure, I'll do that. I didn't set out to do what I'm doing now at all. It just sort of happened to work for me. And I was working at a community college as a multimedia instructor in a CTE program, which required only a bachelor's degree and experience. And I had that. I had taught high school. I had a teaching credential that I'd managed to get over time. And with 5 kids, it took a long time. It took me 7 years to get my AA degree and work. And, you know, by then I was a single mom. And so what ended up happening was I started teaching, and I loved it, and I became very involved in all kinds of things, distance ed in particular, because multimedia, you know, my vice president said, oh, you could be the distance ed person at the college, and I went, and why is that? And, you know, once it happened to me that I became a basketball coach because someone said she can do it, she's tall, and it was the same thing. You know, it was the same piece. It was like, she can do it, she's a multimedia person, so she can teach online. So I did that for quite a while and decided to do a master's program online. And so I enrolled in one and in instructional design for online learning. And my mom got sick and I had to stop that for a while, but then I came back to it. And I will tell you that while I was teaching and my mom was ill and dying, I said, I'm teaching online, I'm not going to be as present as I have been in the past. And, you know, so I'll be checking in every day, but not 3 or 4 times a day because I was pretty obsessed about it. And my students wanted to bring me casseroles and, you know, help take care of me while my mom was sick. It was pretty stunning in an online class, right? So when I completed my degree, about 5 minutes later, the vice president of my college was in my office saying, I need you to be a dean. Could have knocked me over. And I know that my mom, who never saw any of that happen, is really proud of me. And without being able to take that degree online, I wouldn't be standing in front of you right now. You know, I'd be back in the classroom making very little money, not being able to retire on time, which I'm not very good at anyway, but, you know, it was online education that got me to where I am standing right now. So I just want to thank all of you who put your energies into that. So that's my story.
Yeah. And actually, before we move on, one note that I would have to say, and it sort of relates to Patricia with the opening, what we're talking about here is all of you have experience with online courses or fully online programs at the undergraduate level. And nationwide, that's not, well, within the room, yes, that's not the norm. I think that we've been quite used to, particularly at the master's level, that's where predominantly we have a lot of students that take online. But the biggest growth area and the biggest area we're trying to grapple with as an industry is undergraduate online. And you could say non-traditional students coming back to school after the fact, except for the fact that the non-traditional is the normal now. So I just wanted to point out, I think part of what we're hearing here is at the bachelor's level, this is what schools are going to be dealing with more and more as we move forward. But what I'd like to do is I'd like to get more of your description, like what's not a day in the life of a course or your online program, and I'll start with you, Joanne. What's a week in the life of your academic program, both the face-to-face and online? Describe your week.
Okay. Well, like I said, I only have one class on campus. I haven't been familiar with that, but it's the course that I'm taking on campus has actually been called what is flipped, which means that the majority of the course material is also available online. So it's kind of half-half, yeah. Which makes it really convenient since I'm already used to the platform. But outside of that, usually I just, for my on-campus class, I just go to class 2 days a week and the teacher lectures. But on the online environment, I find the same kind of setting, only it's by video. It just really depends on the class also, if that answers your question, because every teacher has a different structure. Some use...
Sure. So actually, so give us a couple of examples that's different, like how you experience a class and how it looks different.
Okay. Well, again, every teacher designs their classes differently. Some use videos, some just use handouts. Here you go, you have a certain deadline to complete this. So it's really, really, really different. It varies by professor. Some hand out a lot more work than others. But technically speaking, I would say that overall, you have modules, and they're usually weekly modules, so you have a certain amount of time to complete your homework, or if there's discussions on the discussion boards, you do that, whatever project might come up. And generally in every course, that's usually how it goes, is you have 1 week to finish the work for that particular week. And then there's, of course, midterms and finals, which not every teacher does incorporate. Some do, some don't. So basically, you just have to be pretty self-paced and disciplined to get this work done, because when you are online, not on campus, nobody's forcing you to be in class, essentially.
Sure. So when do you actually get your work done for the online classes?
I just revolve it around my schedule. Again, usually you just have a due date. This project is due by Friday at 4 p.m. and you have to upload the assignment. So personally, I do it. I'm not a procrastinator. I usually do it as early as possible. But for me, with being a mom, I have to say I am taking time up in the day, which kind of makes me feel bad sometimes. I do try to do it at night if I have a little bit of spare energy. Yeah. So I guess to answer your question, it just varies.
Okay.
For me personally, I don't really have a set time.
Yeah. Okay, great.
Yeah.
So Jeff, tell me a little bit, like, what's a week in the life of your academic program?
In the current program, we have, it's kind of split into two distinct parts. We have things that are usually due midweek, things that are usually due at the end of the week. They kind of coordinated that whole thing. So I work all day, every day, right? I'm a 8 to 5 kind of person. So by the time I get home, have dinner and everything, I have a couple of hours to really focus on whatever's due the soonest. You know, pick the soonest thing, try to get it done, and get through the week. So I found that I spent a lot of years building a fun place in my house, and I am amazingly distracted and easily. So one of the things I really have to focus on is getting out of my little comfort zone and getting away from my distractions and getting to a place where I can sit down and focus. In a way, I almost think that's a good reason to be on campus, but you really have to be disciplined. So every day I have to just put aside all the toys and the fun and kick the cat out and close the door and just sit down and focus on what I have to do. So they say about 10 hours a week per class is what you're expected to produce to get all your work done, and they're not kidding. You know, you really have to set aside those hours to get the job done. So. And
you do yours predominantly in the evening,
yes,
after a full day of work?
Either I can slip an hour here or there in the evenings. I find that I do a lot more on Sundays. Mm-hmm. You know, a lot of stuff's due Sunday nights, you can imagine. So unlike her, I kind of procrastinate a little bit, but I blame my schedule for it.
Sure.
So I feel better about myself.
Okay. Good. Pat?
So I work 10-hour days, 5 days a week. So, so I come home and take care of the kids with my wife, and then I'm really scheduled and regimented type of person. So by 7 o'clock every night, I'm doing homework or something towards my classes. I'm also really obsessive, so my wife has set when I have to stop on the weekend too, because I'll do homework till I fall asleep, because it'll just bother me. So I do 7 till 11 Monday through Friday, and Saturday I get up and do breakfast for the kids on Saturday and Sunday. If I'm not working, I work a lot of Saturdays too, but typically on Saturday and Sunday I do 8:30 to noon, because that's lunchtime and nap time, and I help my wife do that, and I set a time for the older kids. And if I have a really big project or something I'm working on or something unexpected happens, I usually go back on Saturday or Sunday and do 2 till 6, which is dinner and nap time. And then if it's really big, I'm just, after dinner and nap and all the kids are in bed, it's till it gets done. But typically, I'm usually done by dinner on the weekends.
Great. Stacy?
I feel really fortunate that I'm not working outside of the home right now. I really don't know how you guys do it. I'm amazed by you. One of my courses, I discovered that going to online classes full-time is the equivalent of working at least 40 hours a week. And it's true, it really does take that much time. I think it takes longer than when you're in a traditional class because you don't have a 40-minute lecture and then homework. You have to read the 2 chapters and watch some videos and look up some things, and that's your lecture. And then in addition to that, you do your homework and your projects and things like that. I try really hard. I've never been a morning person, but since going back to school, I try to get up by 5 at least so that I can squeeze in at least an hour, hour and a half of work before my kids get up in the morning. I try really hard to do most of my schoolwork while my kids are at school, but that's increasingly difficult because I also try to balance everything else. I schedule the doctor's appointments then and do all the stay-at-home mom kind of things at that point too. I actually could use your wife should call me and tell me to stop sometimes because I tend to just be sitting there with books in my hands and the computer in front of me when my kids are, at home. I'm making dinner, but I'm also studying, or on the weekend I'm working on a project while my kids are doing other things. And I'm familiar with the guilt that, when you're supposed to be playing a board game or helping your kiddo with homework and you're like, oh, just one more chapter, honey, just one more chapter. But it all gets squeezed in between the early mornings and the late nights. It works out.
I have a question of you. What about the flexibility of online from the standpoint of the instructor or from what the instructor expects for you? Have you found them to be fairly flexible with things? If you have something come up, a kid gets sick, or you say you're a caregiver, that might get in the way. Do you think that online is a little more flexible with that, with the time when things are due? Have you found people to be a little more flexible in their expectation of you, or no?
It depends on the teacher.
Mm-hmm.
I'm taking 4 courses this term, and several of them have said that unless you're having a baby or your spouse is dying, they aren't going to accept, they won't make any excuses. And so I've had, my daughter had pneumonia, and my mother-in-law passed away. Things happen, and in these particular courses, you still need to say, here's your antibiotic, honey, mommy still needs to go finish her project by 10 o'clock tonight. On the other hand, there have been other courses where they have been flexible, and I've gotten home at midnight from a hospital and said, oh my gosh, I have this going on in my life. Can I please turn my homework in tomorrow? And they've been really understanding. So I imagine it's just like in traditional classes, it really depends on the professor and their outlook on the course.
Anybody else have anything to say about that? Yeah.
I think that I'm the same with her. It depends on the instructor. But I think that finding instructors with the right mindset to teach online is pretty important. They do a really good job at my school, but there are at other schools instructors that think online students are lazy and cheaters, so they make it a little more difficult and won't accept maybe late work. Not so much anymore. I haven't run into that, but I've only run into one teacher that wouldn't accept a family emergency as an excuse to not have something in.
The other ones, Joanna and Jeff, do you guys have a similar, obviously a common theme here is it depends on the teacher. It's highly dependent on the teacher. Do you guys have this varied experience as well?
Okay. Actually, quite frankly, I've never really had to ask for more time on a project or I've just might have been super caught up. So I can't tell you, but I can relate with how every professor is just different in their approach and maybe strictness, so to speak.
Yeah. Well, even, I guess even broader, let me just broaden it a little bit. Not just are they flexible with your life situation, but do you find the same situation of this course is completely different than this course and it depends on the teacher? Do you have that experience, or do you see similarities between courses?
I would say it's, excuse me, quite different between teachers. And again, even though I've never had to ask for more time for a certain project, or I've had any kind of emergency that tied me up with school come up, I do notice, at least in a syllabus, for instance, or any course announcements, that some professors say, no excuses. If it's late, you didn't turn it in, and that's it. And then some teachers communicate that if you have some kind of extenuating circumstances, you can make sure you email me in time. So it definitely displays that some teachers may be more lenient than others when it comes to anything that might come up or having to turn anything late due to some kind of emergency.
So coming...
Yeah, I think it
Okay, yeah, all right. So coming from a very fresh perspective in our program, the two words that they really reiterated to us was, life happens, right? Especially in the online degree program, most everybody's a working professional. We're not students that are just skipping class, right? Stuff happens. So I'm hoping that as we progress through the program that it's a consistent message, but so far it's been a good message. I mean, so long as you're respectful of the teacher's time, give them as much notice as you can, so far it's been great.
Great. Did you have any follow-up?
Yeah, I have a question about, you were talking about the teachers all being different. What about the courses being different? Is the way a course is designed, what do you need that maybe could help you better that you're not getting in the way courses are designed or set up for you? Or is there something that when you go into a course and you look at it and you go, oh my gosh, I wish this was different? What do you think about that, or do you have those experiences?
I think that because each class is so different, some have deadlines of, middle of the week, end of the week. Some courses have no deadlines. They just want to make sure that you get everything in by the end of the year or the end of the term, and they're like, whatever happens, just get your stuff in. Some teachers utilize different formats. So if you're not a strong reader, you can make it up with the videos and the chats and the virtual discussions and things like that. I think that if I were to pick something that I sometimes didn't get, especially as I was beginning, was just enough of practical directions. The other day I needed to sign on for a chat. It was a virtual discussion, and I had never done this before through this particular format. And I think that the teacher knew already how to do it and couldn't imagine as a student, not knowing. And it was a challenge to figure out where to go and what to click on, and realize I had to download Java and I had to do this. And if she had maybe just included those instructions that, you will have to go to this website and click on such and such, and then you will need to update, your software, and that would have been really helpful, and I wouldn't have been 15 minutes late for the chat. So I think sometimes it's just the little details that would be really helpful. I think that people forget about them when they do them all the time.
Anybody else want to comment on that? On how the courses are set up, or how they're designed, or how that facilitates you being more comfortable or able to get the course done? And I'm sure that you've taken a bunch of different ones, so maybe you have some perspectives.
I think that standardization is pretty important, and they do a good job at school. But I think the teachers or the instructors' deadlines, when there's multiple deadlines in a class, or you take maybe 3 or 4 classes where discussion posts are due Wednesday, and then all of a sudden you run into a class where they're due Friday, and stuff like that. So, but yeah, I think that in the online program I'm in, they bring the the teachers all together before they start the new term. And they also, our program director also talks to a bunch of us after the term's over to kind of like this, to say what we liked and what we didn't like. My group is the guinea pigs. We're the first group at Portland State to do this, so she emails us constantly about what's working and what's not.
Nice,
so.
nice.
Actually, I would like to add on to this question. When you talk about the course design and platform, are you guys experiencing all of this through a laptop, through mobile devices? When Pat asked this question about how the course is set up, what device are you using predominantly?
Well, for me, it's mostly laptop, desktop type stuff. I don't think that a lot of the platforms are really designed for mobile devices quite yet. Got to be careful with that. Your tablets are going to be probably okay, but I don't carry one around, on the bus to read my homework on so much. So it's mostly laptop, desktop type stuff.
What about others?
Laptop for me too.
I use the laptop, but we do Google Chats for our every 2-week meet with the instructors, and quite a few times I've done it from my smartphone at work in the shop because I haven't been able to make it home in time. So
yeah.
Desktop, laptop, sometimes my Kindle when I can't wrestle the computers away from the kids.
Well, it just sort of strikes me is the fact that all of you are fitting in your education. Well, I do it in the evening, or I do it on the weekend, and when I have time to do it, but yet you're not using mobile devices. So I guess I'm just trying to understand. I think you mentioned, Jeff, well, the systems might not be designed for it. Would you like to use mobile platforms for this? Or is it just, no, your preference is I like to use a laptop as the way to go?
Well, I think, anytime you have to interact, right, in terms of typing or interacting with the material, I'm kind of hands-on. Like I'm big hands, so I've got to have a keyboard, right? And so using a tablet to type out a paper or do some kind of a long response just doesn't quite work for me. I know the younger generation, they have little fingers and it works really well for them, but I can't do it.
Great.
We can relate to that. Yeah.
I think the same. I don't think that I would use like a phone or anything, partly because of the typing issue, partly because the reading in the videos, it's easier when it's larger, and partly because I have a really hard time focusing. If I'm reading or working on a paper, I kind of need quiet to do that, and so I don't think that I would be able to incorporate that in during the busier parts of my days when I would maybe tend to use my phone, like on a noisy bus, or I don't know. I think I need the silence.
Yeah. Great.
I have a completely different question now, and it's something that I'm really concerned about and want to know how you experience. We have faculty who say they don't want to teach online because they don't feel like they can connect with their students, and we've also had the experience of students feeling isolated. Do you feel like you connect with your teachers, and do you connect with each other in classes, and how does that work for you?
Okay, I'm really glad you asked that question. The reason I say that is when I signed up for our class, I had a nice long conversation with the administrators of the class, because the one thing I absolutely did not want is someone online to tell me, go buy this book, here's an online quiz, I'll see you at the end of the semester, I hope you do well, right? That doesn't work. I've learned through my class that I am a kinematic learner. So I need to take in the information, I need to convey it, I need to use it somehow. So I thrive on that interaction, right? I really want to be able to either talk about it to my fellow students or be able to ask the teacher questions. And there had to be some kind of an interactive component to this, or there was just no way I was going to do an online class. Mm-hmm. So they explained the whole, like Pat was saying, that every 2 weeks we have a video chat with not only our instructor, but several of the students that you're going to be sticking with throughout the course. So I get a chance to interact with them. I know my students, you know, my students, my other students, and my instructors, and they know me by face, and that whole personal connection really adds a lot to the whole course.
Others?
What I would add to that is that, to answer your question again, it depends on a professor, but I found, for instance, that during my associate's years at my former university, I was a lot more engaged in terms of the professors being more active on in the social spectrum, if you want to call it. For instance, we had live seminars every week and where we could connect, and there was an actual lecture type of, kind of like a classroom, virtual online classroom environment. And found now that I'm in my bachelor's, it's kind of disconnected. And again, it depends on the class. If I would have any more, I would want more personalization in the online courses, so you don't feel like you're just kind of learning by yourself, and there's nobody out there really teaching other than read this. And so, yeah, a little bit more of that would definitely help.
Yeah. Anybody else?
I actually, I mean, of course, the theme today is that it varies depending on the class and depending on the professor. But for a majority of my courses, I feel like I actually have better access to the teacher than in a traditional classroom. I feel like I can email, call, discussion board, post, and get an answer. I don't have to wait for office hours. I don't have to wait in line after class. I have this one-on-one interaction that I'm able to get that I don't think that I would have in a class of, you know, especially a larger class. So on that point, I actually feel like I'm able to form a better relationship than I would otherwise. But with the classmates, they try, I think, really hard. They use discussion board posts and things like that. But it's just not the same. You don't have the same interaction with your classmates. I think your program has a really good idea, because I don't know that I know personally, or I would recognize any of them, even on in a chat room or something. Like, oh, you were in my, you know, philosophy class or anything like that. I don't really have any connection to the other students, I guess.
Another thing that we do in our program is Google Plus, and so you can friend all the students and instructors, and it's kind of a place where you would say, "I'll bring you a casserole," you know. It's so it's I guess a more personal place where you can just post what you've been doing in your life. Instructors will post things about what they're doing, and you know, it's like Facebook without all the pictures of cats, pretty much. So, but it's really good because I know everyone in my cohort, and we talk on Google Plus and Hangouts and email. So there is, you know, it's kind of like going to class that you know people. It's still, we're not talking face to face, but I do know everyone I'm in school with right now.
Well, you have to be careful on Saturday. That's always the worst day for that.
Actually, I want to add the comment, the one that I didn't want to add before I asked you the question. Some of you have heard this. The woman that we brought in, my daughter, we brought her into the academy, and the teachers asked this question, and she said, "I have no college friends." And I just want, that's my mission, is to tell faculty that you have to make that environment so that the students can connect with each other, not just with you. Because college life brings so much richness to your life now and later. Think about who goes to your wedding and who's the godparents of your child and all of that. So I just want to put that out there.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I'm just noticing, I do want to move ahead because of the time. Not to put pressure on you guys, I've never seen at a conference with a room this size, this silent of a group.
Yeah,
so they seem to be enthralled. So this is great. What about outside of class? Do you guys get support outside of class, you know, not directly related with classes? Are you missing something by not being on campus other than your one course?
Okay, given this is an online class, what do you mean by out of class because we're either always in or not.
Oh, what I mean by that is not directly student support. Do you have support services? Does the college help you with your career that's not directly within the course itself?
Oh, okay. Actually, I'm a little new into the program for that, so I can't really say I'm already in a career. As far as all the services go, I'm not really a target demographic, I guess, for that.
Okay. Others?
Yes, my school offers tons of support. I don't think that as a new student I was aware of that, though. I actually had to take a special class, sort of like a welcome for e-students, which I didn't take until a year into my program. And that introduced me to the library support services and the fact that they'll mail me my books if I need them and I just mail them back, or the tutoring services. You can do online tutoring and things like that. So they're there, but I don't know that they're that everybody who starts out knows that they're there or they know how to access them.
But once you've discovered them, have they been an important part of your program?
They have, and it depends on the course and on the requirements. But there have been times when I'm totally clueless. I don't know how to start or where to go, and I always know who to call or email for help to at least guide me in the right direction.
Any other?
I honestly have been pretty entirely neglectful into looking into any kind of programs that might be out there offered by the university. I do know that my specific field of study, there's an internship class that you take towards the end of your degree program where you do have an opportunity to potentially get your foot in the door somewhere with some kind of agency or build some kind of rapport. But I'm sure there's probably others, but I can't really tell you.
Yeah, that's fine. So let me ask, you could look at this as either what advice would you give to other students, or you could look at this as if I had to do this again now that I've gone through an online program, or here's what I need to improve. So what advice would you have for other students taking a similar program to what you guys are taking right now? What does it take to succeed?
So definitely setting aside time. If you just wait for time to show up, your classes won't get done. You need to schedule a time every day or every week that you devote to this, and you're not going to focus on anything else. And don't be afraid to ask the stupid questions. Don't be afraid to email your teacher or to post a question on the discussion board, because chances are somebody else really does have that question. And a lot of times I think we're nervous, especially if it's going to be in print on the screen for the whole class to see, to ask a question. But it's important, and it's just like raising your hand in class. You need to just take the step and be your own advocate, I guess. How's that?
Pat, any?
I'm with her schedule, like very important to schedule when you're an online student. I think even if you're not working full-time with a family, because no one's gonna, you're not going to class, so no one's gonna hold your hand, I guess, for lack of a better term. And also just be engaged, kind of what she said too. You can either be the student that just powers through everything because it's all listed out for you, and I don't think you're really going to grasp much from that. So, ask questions, take your time. It's not a race. Get your assignments and get what the most you can out of it, because you're not, it is harder for an online student, like reading 2 chapters in a night. Email the teacher if you have questions, or the discussion board.
So actively engage.
Right, actively engage, right.
The biggest thing for me is really dig through all the materials and keep a really good calendar, and watch that calendar every day. I'm guilty of I'll look at it tomorrow. I'm sure I've got that in my head, and no. I know in our program they do their best to we have like an everything you need page for the week, but make sure you explore all the material, because one line item that says turn in homework on Sunday could be a 4-day problem, right? And so make sure you go into everything, plan out your week ahead of time, and then follow that schedule, or you're going to be panicky at the end.
Brian?
I pretty much agree with everything that's been said here. Basically, you have to be very self-disciplined and stay on top of things, especially when you're in your own home environment. So much easier to say, oh, I want to watch TV right now instead of study. Or so there's all these little temptations because you are in the comfort of your own home. So you definitely have to have that self-discipline and no, I'm going to study now. This is what I'm going to do, and I'm not going to have any leisure time, at least this far into the game, so to speak.
Right.
Yeah.
I think we have someone waiting to ask a question over there. Do you want to go to the audience?
Actually, I have one final
okay.
one that I'd just like to get, and it doesn't have to be all 4 of you, and then we'll open it up to questions. What advice would you have to teachers and to faculty and staff who are designing online programs or courses? Just quick thoughts. What would your advice be to them?
Yeah, nice.
Don't go in with the mindset that online students are looking for the easy way out, because it's not true for most of us that are out there. But so when you're designing, I guess, things like midterms and finals, don't focus too much on these students are going to cheat if they get the chance. Just design your test, and obviously there'll be people that are going to cheat, but you'll find that in a classroom too. So if you focus too much on making your test a little bit harder because we have more access to books and things, you really stress those of us that aren't cheating out with that, and we're learning just as much as we would if we would cheat on a test at that point.
All right. Any other quick thoughts?
I'm just going to, 2 words, personal interaction. Just be personal, be available.
Right. Thanks. Okay, well, let's open it up to questions from the audience, and I know that we also have somebody monitoring sort of back channel, but do you guys have any, if you'd like to have any questions, come up to one of the microphones. Okay, so if we can ask that, and then for each one, we don't, just so we can get more of this going, we don't have to have all 4 of you answer each question, but we'll figure out who wants to answer. But yes. Okay. Is that on?
Check, check, check. Oh, now it is. Sorry, I maybe jumped the gun. I didn't know when it was going to be appropriate to start asking questions. Let me go back to the interaction for just a moment. One of the other concerns I've heard from online instructors is that their students expect them to respond within a very short period of time, regardless of what time of day or night or what day of the week it is, which causes some of our more traditional faculty to feel a little bit of heartburn. From your perspective as a student, what is an appropriate turnaround time for a response from an instructor, and does that vary by the time of day and day of week?
I think that as long as we know what to expect, well, for me, okay, many of my professors will say, I will respond to you within 24 to 48 hours. I'm not going to check my email at night or on Sundays, or I'm going on vacation. As long as I know what to expect as far as turnaround, then I can plan accordingly. I'll know not to wait and ask a question an hour before my research paper is due, and that if I have any questions, I need to post them several days in advance. So I don't think I have an expectation as far as how soon they need to get back to me. I just need to know what to expect. I need to know that I can count on them responding within the timeline that they say they will. Does that make sense? Okay.
Oh yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Yes.
Great. Yes. Yeah, just go ahead and talk.
Okay.
Switch
well,
over.
good morning, and thank you so much for your time. I even feel a little guilty that I pulled you away from your busy schedule, so again, thank you. My question is, has class size influenced any of your experiences in online learning? We have classes at my university that have 10 people and classes that have thousands, and we hope we design them so that you don't know or that you have the same experience in each of those courses, but just wondering if you've had any experience with different class sizes and how that's been.
Well, I actually have a question for you. So, one of my big things is interaction, right? Like, how do you communicate with your teacher? How does a teacher handle a class in an online situation with 1,000 students and make it feel any kind of personal?
Very well designed and a lot of teaching assistants.
Aha, okay. So it sounds to me like, you've got that handled. No, I mean, seriously, I would take that class. Yeah. I haven't seen anything with regards to in online classes for class size being an issue, as long as everybody gets the same general experience, right? Nobody's left out. It's like, here's your book, here's your test, go away. So I haven't had any problems with that. Have anybody? No?
Really?
So there you go.
Not been an issue for any. What's the largest size class that you guys have had, number of students?
Honestly, I don't know. Really?
Yeah, I believe you.
Yeah.
30.
Yeah.
38.
38? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, John.
Yeah, I don't know myself, and it's never really affected me. I've never even thought about it. I find it to be the same in terms of being consistent.
All right, so the whole thing, like,
process.
wow, I've never thought of that. I've never thought that you don't even know how many students. So I believe you, but
No, I didn't know that. I didn't
wow,
realize
I'm
that
learning
either.
this.
No.
Yeah, that's great.
No.
Bill, I have some questions from the back
Yes.
channel.
Yes.
So Raymond asks, can the students tell us what in their online classes that do not work for them or needs to be improved? I think you've hit on that some already, but faculty response, are there activities that don't work at all?
So I'm in the business program, and we need to learn teamwork exercises, but teamwork online is really, really, really hard. So, and it varies with the instructor. Some of them are really good, and some of them are not. So I would say on the instructor side, if you're going to do a teamwork program, definitely have it laid out what you want to accomplish and really monitor what's going on in the teams.
If you've had that problem, is there also a problem with, your schedule conflicting with another student's schedule? Does that make it hard, or is it just how the instructor is involved with it?
It's a little bit of both. I've had to do teamwork, and when the few times I've had to go on campus and you run into it, there's always the team member that just isn't going to do anything. Online, it's even harder because you don't see them in class. Like, they can ignore email, it's so, and then on the instructor side, you email an instructor and you're same way as in class, like, hey, this guy really isn't pulling his weight. They can ignore the instructor's email too. So it's hard because you could just ignore email pretty much. So I don't know how to fix it, but it's a struggle for online learning to do any kind of team assignment.
Gotcha. Okay. I know we had a question here.
Yes. I have a question from an instructor's perspective. I believe many of us teaching online have the same feel. My life experience on this is that the first time I was teaching the online class, I was not quite familiar with that environment, so I spent some time learning the whole thing. While I was trying to take care of the students, I was not super active. And at the end of the course, out of 6 points of excellence, I earned 5.9. I was quite good, an instructor. Later on, in one term, I felt I was quite an expert with the course, and I started to be super active. So I not only participated in every online discussion forum, but also put out a lot of announcements, chatted with students, and responded super actively. So I used my lunchtime, evening time, get super, super interactive with students. At the end of the course, I scored 5.2. So I was kind of frustrated. I felt my second class, in that class, students really learned a lot. So I guess my question to you is, how much interactivity do students expect from instructors?
Yeah, go ahead.
So while you were speaking, I realized that not only do the professors in the courses vary greatly, but the students in each class vary really greatly too, from working 10 hours a day to stay at home people. So I don't know that you can necessarily answer that question, because my guess is that each term you'll have a different sort of demographic in your class. I appreciate feedback. So as far as the interaction that I would want from my professor would be if I posted something on the discussion board that maybe wasn't quite correct. I would love to get feedback on that. Or if I posted something that was brilliant, you can tell me, that's okay, it won't hurt my feelings. Really fast turnaround on grading. I feel like we work so hard to get these things in on the deadline, and then we have to wait like a month sometimes or longer to get feedback on that, and that can influence, what we've learned and how we're preparing for the next project. So I like to know, for me, I like to have a teacher who's involved in giving feedback and helping me develop my ideas, but I don't necessarily need, I don't need the chatting. I don't need the contact that I think that other people do. So I don't, I guess.
But part of what I'm hearing here, it's not just the total amount of interaction, it's the right kind of interaction, such as feedback.
Yes.
That's part of what I'm hearing. So, let's go ahead. I know there are at least 2 more questions, so could we get a question over here?
Yeah, along the same lines with interaction with the instructor, we've heard a lot of convenient scheduling, working at 5 a.m., yet I still want to have a synchronous live conversation with other students or the instructors. And I was just trying to find what you think of as a balance. Like, I heard you say you checked in every 2 weeks. I've offered it to students in my online courses, and nobody ever shows up. I advertise it a month ahead. I have sign-up sheets. I do reminders every week. Is it just the perception that it's available? And kind of what's your thought process of, I'm okay, versus this is something I really need to go to?
As far as with our program, the video chats are a requirement for the program. You need to do 4 to pass. If you miss one, well, I should say if you don't get 4 done, you won't pass the class. So that's kind of, I guess, the forced interaction. My first term, I was like, man, really? It was kind of a hindrance because I have to schedule that, but I think maybe after the first 2, I was like, wow, this is really, really great. So I would say if, I guess there's students out there that might not think they have the time to do that when it's an option, but if you make it a requirement for the class and they have to be there, then they might be like me and eventually come around and realize it's really useful.
Yep. Jeff?
I think people are crazy for not doing it. I actually took a class. It was an online chemistry class. Think about that for a second. And we had a chat window every week for an hour with the instructor, and it was me and one other person that showed up. I honestly don't know how big the class was. I imagine there were a number, but 2 of us were there, and that gave me a great opportunity to talk to an instructor for an hour straight about the material. So, I'm sorry nobody shows up to yours, but I think they're crazy for not doing it.
Great. I know we had 2 other questions at least. Yes?
So a lot of institutions are working on developing alternative programs where the students would have a lot more choice and a lot more flexibility. So you might be able to choose between project-based learning or even workplace embedded learning and then work at your own pace. I'm hearing you say that a lot of what you do is you organize your week around those weekly deadlines. If you were in a situation where you had a lot more choice and time flexibility and it was more like being mentored and coached by the instructor rather than a rigid structure, do you think that would be useful, or do you think that the familiarity and the structure of the weekly progress is good for you? And if you could extrapolate to what you think other online students find useful.
So I appreciate the cadence. You know, you work every day, you do what you do for a living, and to have some of the class just kind of laid out for, like, you're going to go here, you're going to go here. In fact, our cohort is laid out in such that even our classes are dictated. So I know what I'm already taking next semester, and I don't even have to think about it, right? So if I have to sit and decide, okay, now I'm gonna do this learning style with this set of topics and this whatever, honestly, I don't have time for that. You know, I appreciate the rigidness of the way it's laid out. I see a lot of heads nodding here, so I think we've got an agreement at least. We have a pattern.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah.
So up until a term ago, I would have fully and wholeheartedly agreed with that because I needed the structure, I needed the deadlines. I didn't think I would get anything done otherwise. And then I had a course that was totally different. And the professor said, you know, you're all grown-ups and this is what needs to happen by the end of the term. You can choose, you know, this path or this path. It was very similar to what you were explaining. You can either, you know, choose a more hands-on writing approach, or you can choose this path. And I freaked out. I thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to fail this class. I don't know what to do. I'm not going to be able to keep up. And I ended up loving it. I ended up loving that it gave me more flexibility. It fit better with my life. I'm used to setting aside time for my classes anyway. I'm used to the self-discipline, and it was nice to know that if, you know, if two of my kids were sick and I couldn't get to the discussion post by Wednesday night, it was okay because I could do it the next day and I wouldn't be penalized for that. So there was something it was very calming, and it helped me to really appreciate and soak things up a little bit better. I don't think that I would, if I hadn't had that course, I don't think that I would have the same answer, but because I've had the experience, I really appreciated it.
Good. Okay, one more.
Right, we'll take the last one here in from the back channel. There's been a lot of chatter about the fact that all of you seem very bought into your online learning programs, that they've really helped your lives and in some facts say saved your lives. How would you convince others who are not bought in that this is a good experience for an adult learner? That's what we need to know so we can help do that.
Yes, any thoughts? We saved the toughest one for the last, apparently.
Well, I hope this is not too off topic, but I think a big concern, at least for some online students like myself, is this degree going to be recognized by a potential employer? And I think that's one of the questions that many students kind of struggle with. I entered this online program, then when I go and apply for a job, I go, it's online, is this credible or is it not? Mm-hmm. Like, for instance, with me, I'm fortunate, I go to Portland State and I am in the Portland area, and no one would really be able to tell if I got my degree online or not. But for instance, with Kaplan University, the campus was all the way in Florida, is what I'm trying to say. So obviously, right then and there, somebody would be able to tell you got it online since you're living clear across the country. So,
sure. Any other thoughts as far as what you would say to people who are not bought into the possibilities?
So every day I learn something, and every day I take it to work. And I just yesterday emailed my instructor saying, okay, there are 2 things in this last class that I learned that I can use today, right? And I love telling that to my fellow coworkers. And you always get the same answer: I don't have time for school, or I can't make it to school, I can't do this. There's your selling point. Hit them right there. It's like, okay, there's no excuse. You can do this online. To be bought into it, I mean, I don't know if I could just sell it because it's an online program. That's, you know, I don't know if it has a lot of weight, but when you hit those circumstances, like, you're having this problem, I have your solution. Your solution is get here online, and you can do it, and it's valuable. I mean, I will easily say I'm learning as much as I could as if I went to a class on campus. I mean, I have no doubt whatsoever, and I'm confident that there's no difference between the education I'm getting online and in class.
Okay. Yeah, one final comment.
I was just mostly going to agree. I think that credibility is huge. I think not only increasing the credibility among the general population and then realizing that an online education is a quality education, but among students as well. I don't even know what I expected when I signed up, but the courses are challenging. It's an amazing education that I'm getting, definitely at least on par with what I would be getting in a traditional classroom. And I think that that knowledge hasn't seeped out yet into the general population.
So thank you. Well, I appreciate your time, and I certainly want to personally thank all of the students for sharing their thoughts today. It's been a fascinating session. So Stacy, Jeff, Pat, and Joanna, thank you very much for your time.
Yeah.
Let's hand it back to Luke.
Yeah, I just am so impressed, and I think we owe them a standing ovation. I mean, these are really our student experts for today, so please join me.
Hey, look at that.
You've got a whole room of fans and people cheering you